Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something really important, a reality that affects, well, over 300 million people across the globe, rare diseases. Just imagine waiting, sometimes for years, to get a clear diagnosis. All while symptoms get worse, you're maybe trying treatments that don't work, and you're missing these crucial windows for effective help. It's this agonizing delay that's just far too common. So, our mission today is to explore how a new kind of technology, it's called agentic AI, is starting to change this whole picture. We're going to unpack how it's built not just to find insights, but to actually, take intelligent action. It uses things like pattern recognition and data orchestration in a new way. So, this deep dive is really about understanding how this tech can turn passive data into genuinely proactive diagnostic support, helping finally close that huge gap and hopefully explaining it all in a way that makes sense to everyone listening. That picture you painted of people stuck in diagnostic limbo with rare diseases, it's incredibly tough. And it makes you ask, with all our medical advances, why is this still such a persistent problem? What really causes this? It's a diagnostic black hole.
Yeah, it's a really crucial question. And the material we looked at points to some deep-rooted issues. See, traditional ways of diagnosing, they often rely on data that's just fragmented. Think about a patient's journey, right? They might see multiple doctors, different hospitals, labs, specialists, and all that vital health info often ends up stuck in separate digital silos, these electronic health record systems or EHRs. They don't always talk to each other, and it's not just the data silos. Diagnosis often leans heavily on subjective evaluations by individual doctors, and honestly, quite a bit of trial and error, which, as you can imagine, is exhausting for patients.
Right, trial and error when you're already suffering.
Exactly. And this whole piecemeal approach, it leads to pretty severe consequences. Like you said, symptoms often get worse because the root cause isn't being treated. Patients might undergo therapies that are misdirected, maybe even harmful, or just don't work, wasting incredibly precious time. And critically, opportunities for early intervention get lost. For so many rare conditions, getting that accurate diagnosis early on can make a massive difference to someone's quality of life, even their long-term outlook. It's a really high-stakes waiting game.
So it's not just about having lots of data, it's that the data is disconnected, scattered. That really explains why even the best doctors can struggle. It's like trying to solve a super complex puzzle with half the pieces missing and the other half hidden in different boxes. Okay, given that reality, how are we finally starting to break through? This is where this agentic AI comes in, right? So tell us, what exactly is agentic AI? How is it, different from the AI we usually hear about?
That's the core difference. And yeah, it's where the potential breakthrough really lies. When we talk about agentic AI, we're not just talking about an algorithm that crunches data and spits out a report. The research defines agentic AI as systems that don't just analyze data, but they actually take action autonomously. Now, that's within carefully defined rules and safety protocols, of course. It's a really crucial distinction because these aren't monolithic systems. They're made up of multiple intelligent agents. Think of them as specialized little programs that can collaborate, learn from each other, and evolve over time. They're designed to be proactive, not just reactive.
Okay, hang on. So it's not one single AI brain, but more like a team of specialized agents that can then do something.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Like a specialized medical team or maybe an orchestra, where each agent is an expert in its own area.
Got it. Like you might have a genomics agent and a symptom patterns agent.
Precisely. And this collaborative, action-oriented model is what makes it so well suited to the sheer complexity of rare disease detection. It can pull and synthesize data from all those different EHR systems, those digital records with medical history, test results, doctor's notes, everything. It's designed to detect really subtle symptom patterns and correlations hidden in messy, real-world patient data. Things a human, even a specialist, might easily miss when looking across thousands or even millions of records. It flags anomalies for clinical review, which is huge in itself. But it can also automate and optimize the next steps in the workflow, like maybe generating a referral to the right specialist or suggesting specific targeted tests. It's all about actively moving the diagnostic process forward intelligently and efficiently.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially when finding those subtle clues is so critical. So how does this sophisticated system actually manage to bridge that diagnostic gap we talked about? Our sources break it down into 4 key ways. It turns that passive data into active support.
Absolutely. It works through a combination of capabilities.
Yeah.
The first pillar, really, is pattern recognition across silos. We already touched on this. But rare diseases are tough because symptoms can look like common illnesses, and the data's all over the place. Agentic systems cut through that. They don't just look at one data stream. They connect and synthesize information from diverse sources, EHRs, genomic data, even insurance claims data, to build a truly comprehensive patient picture. And it's not just combining data points. It's about finding those hidden connections, those previously invisible links that no single person or even a team could realistically spot across such huge fragmented data sets. It's almost like having a universal translator for all the different pieces of medical information.
Revealing a hidden language of the disease, almost.
That's a good way to think about it. Then the second pillar is multi-agent collaboration. This is where that team concept really shines. Different specialized agents work in concert. So for instance, one agent might identify a specific biomarker pattern from recent lab results. At the same time, another agent could be comparing the patient's entire medical history against a massive database of similar rare disease cases globally. And by working together, collaborating, they orchestrate a much clearer, more precise path towards a diagnosis. And they do it collectively, much faster than any step-by-step human process could manage. They're constantly communicating, adapting based on the data.
Okay, so they work together. What's next?
The third pillar is contextual awareness. These systems aren't just blindly matching static patterns. They understand context specific to the patient. They can adjust their analysis and predictions based on crucial factors like, say, the patient's age, where they live geographically, or their family medical history. This makes the assessments much more tailored and therefore more accurate. It helps avoid those misleading false positives or negatives you might get from a less nuanced approach.
Right. Context is everything in medicine.
It really is.
Yeah.
And finally, the fourth pillar, and this is often seen as the real game changer, action-driven intelligence. This is where agentic AI goes beyond just flagging a possibility. Instead of just saying, hey, this might be condition X, and leaving it there, the system might actively recommend specific targeted diagnostic test. Or it could even automatically route the patient's case files directly to a known rare disease specialist. In some cases, it might even prepare the necessary clinical documentation to streamline the next steps. The big shift here isn't just knowing what might be wrong, but automatically initiating that first step towards finding out for sure. Yeah. In a field where every single day of diagnostic delay can mean irreversible damage or progression, this kind of automation doesn't just save time, it fundamentally changes the speed of intervention. It collapses that agonizing wait into actual actionable moments. This is really how passive data becomes truly proactive diagnostic support.
It's powerful stuff conceptually, but seeing it work in the real world, that makes it tangible. And our sources did provide a really compelling example from a company called Polestar LLP showing agentic AI in action.
Yes, they did. And it really illustrates the potential. In this Polestar LLP case, they deployed agentic AI specifically to tackle that difficult problem, identifying patients who likely had rare, underdiagnosed conditions, the ones who were consistently slipping through the cracks of standard diagnostic processes.
Okay, so how did it work there?
Well, the system used its network of agents to parse through huge amounts of patient records across different healthcare provider networks. And this included both structured data, like lab results, and unstructured data, like doctors' free text notes. A really clever part of its process was identifying common misdiagnoses that often happen before a rare disease is finally found. So it learned from past diagnostic journeys that maybe took a wrong turn. It then matched the patient's current clinical picture, their history, symptoms, test results against known patterns, symptom clusters, and biomarker profiles for various rare conditions. When it found a strong match, a significant pattern emerged. It would trigger alerts directly to the relevant medical affairs teams and patient care teams.
So it could actually understand the nuances in doctors' written notes.
Exactly. And that's often where subtle but crucial clues are buried. The impact was pretty significant. Polestar LLP themselves stated, and I'm quoting directly from the material here, the agents learned to spot subtle trends in clinical language and lab results that physicians often overlook, enabling earlier intervention for conditions that previously went undetected for years.
Just think about that, years.
Yeah.
For a family waiting for answers, that's monumental.
Absolutely monumental. And the data showed it wasn't just about finding more patients. It also significantly reduced the number of unnecessary tests and specialist referrals. By pinpointing the high likelihood patients much earlier, it made the whole diagnostic pathway far more efficient and, importantly, less burdensome for the patients themselves.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly powerful, almost futuristic, but we're dealing with extremely sensitive health data here and complex medical decisions. That immediately raises big questions about trust, transparency, and of course, compliance. How are those critical safeguards built into these systems?
That's a crucial point, and you're right, it's absolutely paramount, especially in the context of rare diseases. The research we looked at really emphasizes that these agentic AI systems aren't just developed in isolation. Building in trust and safety is fundamental. So critical safeguards are designed in from the very beginning. For example, every single action the system takes, every recommendation it makes, is logged meticulously in audit trails. This means everything is traceable. You can always go back and see precisely why the AI suggested a certain path. And importantly, these aren't black box algorithms where you don't know what's happening inside. They use what's called explainable AI models. This means the agents can actually provide a justification for why they made a particular recommendation. That transparency is key for clinicians to trust the output.
Okay, so traceability and explainability. What about privacy?
Non-negotiable. Data privacy is built in. These systems have to adhere to very strict regulations, like HIPAA over here in the US, ensuring patient health information is secure and private, and similar regulations like GDPR in Europe, which provide robust data protection. And maybe the most critical piece, there's always human oversight. The AI doesn't make final decisions or take actions independently without clinical validation or approval. It's designed to augment clinician judgment, not replace it. It provides powerful tools, insights, proactive suggestions, but the human expert remains in control, ensuring everything stays within regulatory bounds and ethical considerations.
That augment, not replace point feels really key for acceptance.
Definitely. It's about collaboration between human expertise and AI capabilities.
And the benefits seem to ripple outwards, beyond just the individual patient getting diagnosed faster. The material we reviewed highlights how this creates new value for various teams within the healthcare and pharmaceutical world, too.
That's a really great point. While faster, more accurate diagnosis for the patient is absolutely the core goal, the technology does create significant value across the whole ecosystem. Think about medical affairs teams and pharma companies. They can gain much earlier insights into unmet patient needs. They can see where the diagnostic challenges really are and maybe spot emerging treatment opportunities they wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Okay, so better insights for them.
Right. And for commercial teams, having data-backed insights into how prevalent a rare disease actually is, even if it's often underdiagnosed, can really support their market access strategies. It helps ensure that when treatments are developed, they can actually reach the patients who need them. Then there's R&D teams. Agentic AI can help them identify very specific subpopulations of patients for rare disease clinical trials much more quickly and accurately. This could potentially speed up the drug development process itself.
Accelerating research, too. Makes sense.
And finally, for healthcare provider HCP support teams, the folks who interact directly with doctors, this technology can equip them with better diagnostic support tools and educational materials to share. So yeah, these broader applications, they don't just help speed up diagnosis for individuals, they also foster stronger alignment across different functions within companies, all ultimately focused on improving patient outcomes.
So if there are organizations listening, maybe in pharma or health tech, and they're thinking, okay, this sounds promising, maybe something we should explore, what are the practical first steps? How do you actually start deploying agentic AI for something like rare disease detection? The guidance we looked at seemed to offer some clear advice.
It does, and it emphasizes a pragmatic step-by-step approach. You don't boil the ocean on day one. The first recommendation is to identify known diagnostic bottlenecks. Look at your current processes. Where do patients typically get stuck or fall through the cracks? Focus your initial efforts there, on areas where there's a clear, recognized problem of delay or misdiagnosis.
Start with the biggest pain points.
Exactly. Second, you need to audit your data infrastructure. Can your current systems actually access and securely process the diverse types of patient data needed from EHRs, labs, genomics, maybe even claims? Getting the data foundation right is absolutely essential before you layer AI on top. Third, and this is critical, engage clinical and compliance leaders early. Get them involved right from the beginning. You need their input to design AI workflows that are not only technically sound, but also clinically useful, trustworthy, and fully compliant with all the rules and regulations. You need their buy-in.
Makes sense. Build trust internally first.
Absolutely. Fourth, the advice is to pilot one workflow. Don't try to implement this across 10 different rare diseases at once. Start small, pick one, maybe a reasonably well-understood condition where you have decent data available. Run a pilot project. This lets you learn, refine the process, and demonstrate value in a controlled way. And finally, fifth, Measure time to diagnosis improvements. You need to track the impact. Focus on clear, quantifiable metrics. Are you seeing fewer unnecessary specialist referrals? Is the diagnostic yield from tests improving? Are patients undergoing fewer unnecessary procedures? Demonstrating this tangible impact is key to making the case for wider adoption.
So starting focus, getting the data right, involving the experts, piloting and measuring, sounds like a solid plan. Okay, bringing it all together then, what does this really signify for the future of rare disease diagnosis, and maybe even beyond?
Well, I think it signifies a major shift. Agentic AI is genuinely helping to rewrite the playbook for rare diseases. By being able to recognize those incredibly subtle, often missed patterns in massive amounts of complex data, and crucially, by automating those next steps, those follow-up workflows, it brings desperately needed clarity and speed to an area just defined by agonizing delays for far too long. The profound impact really is what the reports suggest. Rare isn't invisible anymore. It's about using technology smartly to finally see, and more importantly, to act on behalf of these patients who've waited long enough.
Rare isn't invisible anymore. That's a powerful thought. And perhaps as we close out this deep dive, it leaves us with something to consider. What other really complex, long-standing challenges, maybe not just in healthcare, but think about fields like climate science or finance or logistics. What other problems could be transformed by systems that don't just process data, but systems that intelligently learn, collaborate, and actually take proactive steps? How might this whole agentic shift fundamentally change how we tackle big problems in our increasingly information-rich world? It's definitely something fascinating to ponder.